Over the next 2 weeks, we will be speaking to Helena from Christian Friends of Israel. Now, she ministers to Holocaust survivors here in Israel. My first question to her was, what was the Holocaust?
The Holocaust was an idea from one crazy person, and his name is Hitler. And his goal was to destroy all the Jewish people, to gather them to a place, and the first thing he wanted to shoot them all. And we blame also only Hitler, but what I think, you can blame a great part of the world for letting Hitler do what he was doing. In 1938 there was a conference in Evian near Geneva, and Hitler invited there 32 countries to speak about the Jewish problem. And he asked this country to get the Jewish people out of Germany, out of Europe actually, to other countries. And none of the countries, nearly none of the countries, wanted to receive the Jewish people. They had to pay $250 for each person. And 29 countries said, no, we have enough problems in our own country. And only 3 countries, Denmark, Holland, and the Dominican Republic, said, yes, you can send us the Jewish people. But it was not enough for him, so on that day Hitler decided to let the train starting to ride to the camps in Germany first, and then later in all the other countries.
Now, how many Jewish people died in the Holocaust?
6 million, I think many people know that 6 million Jews died during the Holocaust. Many from them got killed immediately, were shot, but that problem was too big also. It was too much work to dig a grave for a Jewish person. So he decided to make it easier and make showers, and everybody knows that he was poisoning them with the Cyclone B, and then the bodies got burnt in the ovens.
So how many children out of that 6 million actually died in the Holocaust as well?
But I know it was 1.5 million children died during the Holocaust. That were from babies to children from until 12, 14 years old.
Why did the Holocaust happen?
It started, I think, already in the brain of Hitler when he was a young child. He felt threatened through Jewish people when he was in school, and because of that he didn't like the Jewish people and wanted to get rid of them as a payment for what he did to him in school. I think it was a very crazy idea, but I don't know what was going on in this man's brain, but it was not human anymore.
Yeah. So what was life like for those living in the concentration camps?
Hell. Just hell. There was no food. There was no place to lay your head down. They got beaten. They had to stand for hours and hours in the morning on call, during the summer in the heat, during the winter in the cold. And many of these people, and we meet them, they got frozen legs because of the cold in the winter, and they didn't have shoes on their feet, so they got frozen, and they had to amputate legs for this reason. But for the people in the camps, for the doctors, this was for them an opportunity again, to do some experiments on the Jewish people. They didn't care if they wouldn't have legs anymore, or that they would die. but they used it for their experiments.
How many of those camps were actually death camps where they knew that if they came there, that was it, their life was over?
I know that there are at least, I think, 9 are mentioned. But beside that, after the war, we know many more places where they brought the Jewish people and they got killed there too, and that is not mentioned in maybe not even in Yad Vashem, but there were many places, you know, that they brought the people and they got killed there too. If they were not useful anymore, they got killed, even in the ghettos. So how many ghettos there were? I don't even know how many ghettos there were.
Yeah.
So they got killed too. When they were not useful anymore, they got killed. So I cannot tell you the exact amount of death camps.
It must have been quite a miracle just to survive all this. How many survivors actually live here in Israel today?
It is a little bit difficult to say now, because last year they said 360,000 were still alive in Israel.
Wow.
But there is a new law since November last year, and they count now as a survivor people who were actually in a ghetto or in a camp, not those who were in evacuation. So, and they speak now about 80,000.
Yeah. So do these people still live in fear even to this day, even though the Holocaust has been over for 50 years?
They don't maybe live in fear here in Israel. At least, you know, last year, of course, with the war with Lebanon, yes, they did. It was a terrible experience for them. But they live in poverty. And that is very hard to see. When you come in houses and the people have no food in their refrigerator. When you open them, you see only a bottle of water. Because they have to choose between food or medicines.
Yeah.
And medicines is also a part of life for them.
Yeah.
So they choose for the medicine.
Yeah. Do they still live the nightmare of the Holocaust?
Yes.
Yeah.
Without any doubt.
Yeah. They
dream about it. They see it in front of their eyes, day and night. They don't even have to close their eyes, they say, to see it, because it is there all the time. I heard just a story a few weeks ago from a lady. She never told her story, but she wakes up every night screaming. And even her husband didn't know why. And I have a good relationship with her now, and she felt she has to tell me. And that is very hard when you hear a story after 60 years.
Yeah.
And her husband was there, and he was crying because he didn't know, but he was there for her all these years, and waking her up at night when she had a nightmare again. And I said, "It's okay, honey, you're here, I'm with you." And that's what he could do, because he didn't know what was going on in her dreams. After 60 years, now he knows.
Now you go in and you minister to these Holocaust survivors. How easy is it for you to listen to some of the stories that you hear?
In the beginning, it is very hard to listen to it. But it is a God-given thing, I think, that He makes us able to listen to it. Because we know when they tell the stories that it helps them. And you never get used to it. I go home and I'm in my bed and I'm thinking about this. What would I do when this would have happened to me? But we know we help the people to listen. Because that is, many times they say to us, "Thank you for listening." Because they have the idea, the feeling, nobody wants to listen to them anymore. Because this so long ago. But for them it is reality still in this time. Yeah.
Now, do many of the Jewish people blame the Christians for what happened during the Holocaust?
I'm amazed that the survivors themselves hardly speak about that. They know that we as Christians come and want to listen to them and want to help them where it is possible. And I got this question one time from a lady from the States who asked a survivor, "Do you hate the Germans?" And then he was quiet, and then he said, "No, I don't hate them, because they were a victim of the system." And for me that was a great answer.
Now, you've heard many heart-wrenching stories from some of the survivors. Are you able to share some of those stories now?
Yeah, there are so many. We have books and books with stories, short stories from the survivors. But I can tell you maybe from this woman, after 60 years, that she opened up to me to tell her story. She was a child. She was 6 years old when the war started. Her father was in Holland, and her mother was with 8 children at home and the 9th she was expecting. When the Germans came and took the children, the youngest children, away from the mother, and they were sent to an orphanage in France, and she was one of them. And the mother with the older children went to Auschwitz, and they got killed there. And after the Germans came also in France, they were brought from France to Germany again, and to the concentration camp Bergen-Belsen. Then she was 7 years old. And also the little ones got killed in Bergen-Belsen. But there were 20 from the SS officers. They took the little girls and they put them in a small room. And after they had done their duty in the camps, they came to this room and they raped these little girls from 5, 6, 7 years old. And not one time, time and time and time again. And not one in one day, no, 15, 20 went over them. And this made this lady screaming, when she was alone in a room, screaming for her mother. But her mother didn't hear her because her mother was already dead. And this she never could tell. And her fear was that she never would have children. But thank God she got 2 healthy daughters. And a husband who's very, very good for her. But that makes such an impact on your life you can never forget.
No. What does this make you think about humanity when you hear stories like this?
I cannot understand that a person can do it. We know that it happens. But when someone sits in front of you and tells you this, then you can hardly believe that a person is able to do that. And this has nothing human inside him left. He's becoming like an animal.
I spoke with Helena from Christian Friends of Israel, and I asked her if she thought that the Holocaust could ever happen again.
We always pray that it will never happen again. But we know also that things go on in this world, and the world is again closing his eyes. Yesterday I saw a program from South Africa in a country where 1.5 million people died already. And the world doesn't do anything. I can only say I hope not, and I pray to God that will not happen again. But I cannot say no. Also not so long ago, we visited a Holocaust survivor in Ashdod, and he also came from a big family. The father had to go to the front to fight against the Germans, and the mother with 9 children was taken to a ghetto. Not even a camp, but a ghetto. And they lived for a little while in the ghetto. They had to work. There was hunger. There was sicknesses, and and they lived in a pig stall with 20 people on 10 square meters. And then one day the Germans came, and all the Jews had to go to a square, and then they took first all their belongings, what they still had left. And then they had to go in long row, were brought to a place where in the middle was a big hole, mass grave. And then they were taking 4 Jews at a time and shot them, and they tumbled in the grave. But it was New Year's Eve, and there were 800 Jewish people. And they wanted to finish the job because they lost a lot of time with taking the belongings, so it has to be finished before 12 o'clock because they want to celebrate the New Year. So then they forced them to lay down, and then they start shooting one after the other and to make it quicker. But in that time, because it was already dark, there were people who could escape and run away. And this boy was close to his mother, and he got separated in that moment from his mother. But then it was quiet that the Germans thought that they killed everyone, they went away, and then the people who were still alive, they were looking for their relatives. So the mother started to look for her children, and she found this boy that is still alive today. And then she was looking for her other 8 children, and she was running around and calling their names, but no one answered. And that evening this mother lost her 8 children, and she became crazy. And this one boy took care of his mother, and he was only 12 years old. He had also frozen legs, and they amputated his heels from the legs, but he took care of her until she died. These are stories, you cannot even imagine what the mother feels.
So what sort of things do you do as Christian Friends of Israel to bring the love of Christ to these Holocaust survivors? Because I can see that it's a very moving thing for you to be able